روا آسمانوں سے جو ٹکرائی ہے فریاد ربا پہ برسنے کو گھٹائیں کربلا سے جو کربلا سے کربلا سے جو کربلا سے کربلا سے میرے تک کربلا سے مات کربلا سے صدائیں کربلا سے صدائیں کربلا سے
اللہم صلی علی محمد وعلی محمد
مجرئی خلق میں ان آنکھوں نے کیا کیا دیکھا مجرئی خلق میں ان آنکھوں نے کیا کیا دیکھا پر کہیں صفت پیغمبر ثنا کا دیکھا مجرئی خلق میں میں نے دیکھا عالم شاہ کو آلودہ خون میں نے دیکھا عالم شاہ کو آلودہ خون میں نے عباس کو بے جان لب دریا دیکھا مجرئی خلق میں میں نے دیکھا اصغر کا گلا، 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 میں نے دیکھا اصغر کا گ خون میں تر میں نے دیکھا علی اصغر کا گلا خون میں تر میں نے زخمی علی اکبر کا کلیجہ دیکھا مجرائے خلق میں ایک گٹھڑی شہدی پشت پہ لائے جس میں ایک گٹھڑی شہدی پشت پہ لائے جس میں میں نے ٹکڑے ہوئے قاسم کا سراپا دیکھا مجرائے خلق میں ہائے کیوں ہو نہ گئی کوڑ کے ان آنکھوں نے ہائے کیوں ہو نہ گئی کوڑ کے ان آنکھوں نے قید خانے میں سکینہ کا جنازہ دیکھا مجرائے خلق میں جا کے زینب نے مدینے میں کہا صغرا سے جا کے زینب نے کہا صغرا سے کہوں کس منہ سے کہ پردیس میں کیا کیا دیکھا مجرائے خلق میں
اللہم صلی علی
دیگر بلندتر صلوات.
Thank you, Sayyid Khamis, for a beautiful recitation. Could I next invite up Sayyid Shujat, please, to the minbar. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
بلند ترین صلوات پڑھیے. شب عاشور ہے، غریب کربلا کی آخری رات ہے. آپ کے سامنے ایک سلام کے چند اشعار پیش خدمت ہے. حالانکہ گلا ساتھ نہیں دے رہے، جتنی کوشش ہوئی انشاءاللہ میں پیش کروں گا. بلند ترین صلوات پڑھیے. اے چاند کربلا کے، تو نے تو دیکھے ہوں گے، اترے تھے اس زمیں پر عرش بری کے تارے. اے چاند کربلا کے، اے چاند جلوہ گر ہے ہاشم کا چاند، یہاں پر خیرات روشنی کی لے لیجیو یہاں سے. اے چاند، اے چاند اس زمین پر رکھیو ہمیشہ ٹھنڈک، سوتے جو ہیں یہاں پر زہرا کے ہیں یہ پیارے. اے چاند تسنیم و سلسبیل و کوثر کے ہیں یہ مالک، مارے گئے جو پیاسے اس نہر کے کنارے. اے چاند حر اور حبیب جیسے جاں باز اور احبا مارے گئے یہیں پر انصار شاہدی کے. اے چاند کربلا کے، مارے گئے یہیں پر بے دردیوں ستم سے مسلم کے دونوں بیٹے، زینب کے دونوں پیارے. اے چاند پامال ہو رہی تھی قاسم کی لاش بن میں، عباس اور سرور چنتے تھے ان کے ٹکڑے، اے چاند بازو کٹے یہیں پر، عباس با وفا کے اذن وغا نہ پایا، پانی بھی لا نہ پائے، اے چاند اس سرزمیں پہ گزرا سرور پہ یہ بھی صدمہ، سینے پہ کھائی برچھی ہم شکل مصطفیٰ نے، اے چاند کربلا کے پانی پلانے لائے، ایک مہلکا کو سرور کیا ذبح حرملا نے، تیرے ستم لگا کے، اے چاند گردن چھدی پہ سر کی، بازو چھدا پدر کا، دونوں تڑپ تڑپ کر پیاسے جہاں سے گزرے، اے چاند اس بن میں ایک بچی بابا کو ڈھونڈتی تھی، بکھرے ہوئے پڑھے تھے جب سر بری لاشیں، اے چاند پھر یہ بھی تو نے دیکھا وہ غم رسیدہ بچی سینے پسو رہی تھی، بے سر پدر سے لپٹے، اے چاند بازو بندھے یہیں پر، پہلے پہل حرم کے اس سرزمین سے نکلے، سجاد سر جھکائے، اے چاند کربلا کے تو نے تو دیکھے ہوں گے، اترے تھے اس زمیں پر عرش بری کے تارے، اے چاند کربلا کے صلوات۔
Thank you so much to Sayyid Shujat. So next we're going to have an audio immersing narrative, which is reliving the moment when Imam Hussein alayhi salam is stood all alone in Karbala with male members of his family have all gone out and been massacred and slaughtered on the plains. He's contemplating as to what is about to unfold in front of him. And the aftermath after his martyrdom, about the tragic stories and what will engulf Sayyidah Zainab and the difficulties they're about to go through. So I implore each and every one of you to please closely listen to the words and close your eyes and picture yourself on that day as to what it would be like, the situation facing the Imam, and just follow along with the story. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. The declining sun was now casting lengthening shadows on the plain of Karbala. It seemed that Hussein was waiting for the inevitable hour to come. Perhaps he was waiting till the time for evening prayers so that he could get out into the battlefield after offering his prayers. The shouts from the enemy hordes became more and more vociferous. It seemed now that they weren't clamoring to shed his blood so that, having accomplished their task, they could partake of the feast which their commander had prepared for them to celebrate their success. Some impatient soldiers came marching towards Hussein's camp and shouted,
"O Hussein, where are your soldiers who were so anxious to protect you, who had sworn to see that no harm came to you as long as any of them lived? Where are your brothers, sons, nephews who had sworn to protect you and see that nobody raised his voice against yours till any of them breathed?"
Hussein was cut to the quick by these taunting words of the enemy. He turned towards the morgue where the dead bodies of his beloved friends, his dear ones, were lying, and he addressed them all and he said,
"Where are you, Muslim? Zuhair, Habib, Hur, my faithful friends. Do you hear the taunts of the enemies? Why don't you respond to my last call for help? Ali Akbar, Qasim, Aoun, Muhammad, my brothers. You were all ready to defend me, but now I am all alone, without a friend, without anyone to defend me in this hour of trial."
turning then in the direction of the river Euphrates, where the dead body of his dearest brother Abbas was lying, he cried,
Abbas, my brother. Abbas, are you hearing my cry for help? Why are you not answering me today? From childhood, you are ready. You are ready to protect me from anyone. But today, insults are being hurled at me. Why don't you come to my help now?
He wept bitterly and added his nearest sleeping, the sweet slumber of death. And it was death that had created that barrier for which no one would cross to help him. With faltering steps, Hussein entered his camp to bid farewell to his sisters, to his daughters, and to other ladies of his house.
My dearest brother, is it true you are going away for the last time, never to be seen alive again? Oh brother, has that time come which I was dreading all day long, for you to depart, leaving us at the mercy of these heartless hordes?
Hussein, in his mind, had immeasurable amount to say to Zainab before their last parting. But he knew the little time that they had remaining. It pained him to tell her the enemy will take them all prisoners, and they will march through the streets of Kufa and Sham, that they may snatch away their veils, and that they may parade them through the bazaars of these cities, that they will even tie and chain their hands and feet, that they will mercilessly lash them, and they will use their spears to torture all the helpless ladies and children. It was this, that the real hour of trial for Zainab, that's yet to begin. Turning around, Hussein saw his dear little daughter standing near him, looking up at his face. She was speechless, dazed with grief. The sorrow depicted on her innocent face tore Hussein's heart. He picked her up in his arms and imprinted kisses on her cheeks, which were wet with tears. Yet, it is these same cheeks that will receive the cruel slaps of the enemy just for crying for a dead father. He reaches the courtyard of his camp, and he found his faithful steed waiting impatiently for him. Zuljana was fully conscious of his master's plight. He saw the sight of Hussein, wounded, covered with blood, and it brought tears into the animal's eyes. He stood before the horse for a moment, looking helpless. There was not a single occasion when his brother Abbas, or his son Aliun Akbar, or his nephew Qasim had not helped him mount the horse holding the stirrups.
O Akhi Abbas, where are you? Why don't you rush forth to help me mount the horse? Akbar, Qasim, come forward. Hold the stirrups for me today.
Hussein, if there was nobody to help you today, my brother, I, your sister, will do this service for you. Let me hold the stirrups for you.
And before Hussein could say anything, it was Zainab who was holding the stirrups. As soon as Zainab had gone back into the tent, Hussein spurred Zuljana to move. The horse did not respond and stood still. It was glued to the spot. Looking down, Hussein saw his youngest daughter Sakina clinging to the horse's hooves and crying.
Zuljana, I saw my uncle Abbas ride away. Zuljana, I know from the talk of my father that he is now going away, going forever and ever, never to come back again. I beg you not to take him out, if you do not want to see me as an orphan with nobody left to love me and care for me.
The Imam immediately jumped down from the horse's back, picked up Sakina in his arms and sat on the ground. The father, the daughter, clung to each other as if nothing could part them. Hussein's heart was bleeding. and the innocent words of Sakina made him weep. They cried together, sat there embracing each other, both crying their hearts out with grief unconfined. The Imam rode on straight to the armies arrayed against him on the opposite side. The soldiers of Amr Sa'd saw Hussein coming towards them in the Prophet's turban and robe. Amr Sa'd saw Hussein coming towards them, and he addressed the army in a stentorian, clear and ringing voice, which was audible to the enemy hordes.
O soldiers of Yazid, I've come to ask you whether you know who I am. If any of you do know me, I will make it clear right now. I am the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. I am the son of the Prophet's daughter, Fatima, and the Prophet's cousin, Ali. I am the last of the 5 whom the Prophet of Islam, spoke time and time again to his people. Many of you have seen and heard the Prophet. I ask such of you whether you have not seen the Prophet carrying me and my brother Hassan on his shoulders when we were young children. Have you not heard the Prophet say that I was his beloved child? Have you not seen the Prophet crying with grief? He cried with grief when I cried on account of any sorrow or affliction. The Prophet is no more, but I am here standing before you.
Amr Sa'd gave orders to fire a volley of arrows at Hussein. He also gave orders to his infantry and cavalry to converge on Hussein with swords and daggers. Hussein, with sword in hand, charged on the attacking soldiers, mowing down all who came within range of his sword. He first attacked the right wing of the army, and the enemy's shoulders in utter confusion fell back. He veered around and launched a furious attack on the left wing of the army. And before the soldiers could realize where he was, he had cut through the core of that wing. He then turned like lightning to the center of the army, and the cowardly soldiers, who were anxious to save their lives to get the benefits of the awards for which they had sold their souls, retreated in panic and confusion. Hussein's sword was flashing in the blazing sun like lightning. Yet, this aged Hussein, who had no food, no water for 3 days, whose heart was torn by the loss of all his dearest ones, whose every inch of his body was covered with wounds, he halted in his charge to see what way to the rivulet, to the tributary of the Furat. He saw the dead body of his brother Abbas lying there, and he cried,
Abbas, Abbas, did you see your brother's last fight? Oh, my brother, in life you are always ready with praise for any brave deed. Why don't you say bravo to me?
Hussein, who's already wounded from head to foot, was now receiving one mortal wound after another in quick succession. His blood was flowing so fast that he was finding it difficult to remain on horseback. Hussein was now in a semi-conscious state. And in this condition, he felt that all the prophets of the bygone ages had come over to witness his ordeals. He saw them retreating one by one, saying to another that he could not bear to see his helpless and saddest plight. He saw his own grandfather, Muhammad. He saw his father, Ali. He saw his brother, Hassan, all weeping at his helpless condition. He heard them say to each other that they could no longer see his suffering and agony and leave with limitless grief and sorrow. And then he saw his mother, Fatima. Ya Fatima. His mother came over to him, weeping and wailing.
My Hussein, what have they done to you? My child, none of them had pity for you? Did no one amongst them recognize that you were the Prophet's dear child? My Hussein, there is nobody near you in your last hour. But my child, I am here with you. I will not let you lie your head. I will not let your head lie on the burning sands of Karbala. I will hold it in my lap till the last.
Hussein, as he was lying on the plains of Karbala, he felt as if his mother Fatima had come near him. She put her tender hand on his forehead, much as she used to do during childhood. On his burning forehead, he felt something cool and comforting. He thought it was the hand of his mother, the same hand that was last pressed against the ribs that were broken between the wall and the door. The same hands that were pressed against the ribs that were broken between the wall and the door were now wiping the blood and the sweat off his forehead. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Can I just request the brothers that are leaning against the barriers, please can you make, sisters, please can you make sure you're not leaning on the barriers, please? Because otherwise they're falling over and coming apart. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the evening. Salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
صلى الله عليك يا رسول الله صلى الله عليك وعلى أهل بيتك المذلومين المعصومين صلى الله عليك يا عبد الله يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة ما خاب من تمسك بكم أمنا من لجأ إليكم يا ليتنا كنا معكم
سيدي فنفوز فوزا عظيمة مدارس آيات خلت من تلاوة ومنزل وحي مقفر العرسات. These are the words of Di'bal al-Khuzai, who came to see Imam al-Ridha alayhi salatu wassalam during the days of Muharram. And as soon as Imam al-Ridha salamullah alayhi saw Di'bal, he asked him, have you prepared anything to recite for my grandfather Hussein alayhi salam? Di'bal said, I would never come to you, Ibn Rasulullah, without having written something for your grandfather Hussein. And so like we have this majlis, Imam al-Ridha gets a curtain, the women on one side of his family, the men on the other, and he tells Di'bal to recite. And what you'll find in the narrations is that when the A'imma alayhimus salatu wassalam would come to the majlis, they sit on the floor, or they would sit at the place where the people would enter to welcome the guests of Majlis of Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam. Di'bal recites these lines. He says, مدارس آيات خلت من تلاوة ومنزل وحي مقفر العرسات ديار علي والحسين وجعفر وحمزة والسجاد ذي الثفنات قبور بكوفان وأخرى بطيبة. The houses where Quran would be revealed, where Quran would be recited, the houses of Hassan and Hussein. All of these houses now have become empty. قبور بكوفان وأخرى بطيبة وأخرى بفخ لها صلواتي. He would say, and some are buried in Karbala, some are buried in Najaf, and some are buried in Medina. وقبر ببغداد يا لها من مصيبة. And there is an Imam buried in Baghdad, until Di'bal would say, أفاطم لو خلت الحسين مجدلا وقد مات عطشانا بشط فراتي توفوا طاشا بجنب النحر وليتني توفيت فيهم قبل حين وفاتي. For if someone dies of thirst in a desert where there is no water, this is not something strange. But to die of thirst next to a river, this is something very strange. He would say, توفوا طاشا. They died thirsty next to the Furat. And if only I had died amongst them and instead of them, then Di'bal would say, فاطم يا ابنة الخير قومي واندبي نجوم سماوات بأرضي فلا آتي. He would say, يا فاطمة الزهراء, stand and mourn everyone for the stars that have fallen in Karbala. I don't wish to take too much of your time. You wish to do poetry and lament afterwards, but there is a part of the musibah of Hussein alayhi salatu wasalam that the scholars have mentioned, and that is, where was it in Karbala? That Zahra was with Imam al-Hussein, for there are many times in the story of Ashura that Zahra says, I was next to Sayyid al-Shuhada. The first of these was at the time where Hussein enters into Karbala and his horse doesn't go any further. The people of Banu Asad come forward. He says, what is the name of this land? They would say, Sayyidi ismuha Taif. It is called Taif. He would say, Alaha ismun akhar. Does it have another name? They would say, Sayyidi ismuha Ghadriyat. It is called Ghadriyat. Hussein says, no, tell me another name. I'm searching for a certain name, until an elderly man comes from Banu Asad. He says, Sayyidi ismuha Karban wa Balaya. Hussein says, this is where now my body will remain إلى يوم القيامة. He tells the women and children, place our tents here. The first time where they see Zahra, suddenly after a while Zainab comes running to Hussein saying, oh my brother, what is this land? What is this place? For my heart feels restless in this land. And since we have come, I can hear the voice of a woman crying. Hussein says, that isn't any woman. That is the voice of Fatimatu Zahra. This was the first. Then on the night of Ashura, Hussein would come out of his tent. He would see one of the companions. He would take him throughout the maqtal. He would say, this is the place where the right hand of Abul Fadl will be cut. And this is the place where they will cut his left hand. And this is the place that Akbar will fall on the ground. And this is the place that Aliyun al-Asghar, his throat will be pierced from ear to ear. Hi yuqtalu rijaluna. Until Hussein comes to one place, he says, this is the place when all alone I will fall on the ground. The companion says, I saw the place where Hussein mentioned. I saw that there are no rocks, there are no pebbles. It's as if someone has cleaned this. I said, Ya Abdullah, why are there no rocks here? Why are they clean? Why is this clean? He said, my mother Fatima. He would say, my mother Fatima Zahra has cleaned this part of Karbala, knowing that I will fall on the ground. This was the second, and now come to the third. Zainab says, I would be standing until Zainabiyya. I won't recite the Shahada of Hussein, for you will hear it tomorrow. But a time would come where Zainab says, I would be standing on that hill, and I would look at my brother Aba Abdullah, and I would say, Anta akhi, is this my brother? Why would she say, is this my brother? because there are so many wounds on the body of Hussein. Zainab finds it difficult to recognize Abu Abdullah. And then the time would come where shimmer would be on the chest of Hussein. And they would see that Shimr is hesitating to cut the neck of Hussein. Someone would ask him, "Oh Shimr, why do you hesitate cutting the neck?" This is the third place. Why do you hesitate cutting the neck? He says, whenever I try to cut the neck of Hussein, I hear the voice of a woman crying, saying, "Waladi, waladi, قتلوك عطشانا." Oh my son, they are killing you once you are thirsty. These are the three places where Zahra would come next to Abu Abdullah. A time would come where Zainab says, after the day of Ashura and after Kufa and Sham, Zainab says, we would enter back into Medina, but I would tell my nephew Sayyid al-Sajjad that I will not enter into Medina like this. Tell one of the poets of Medina to mention what has happened in Karbala. Bishr the poet says, I would enter into Medina, I would say, Ya Ahla Yathrib la muqama lakum biha, قتل الحسين فأدمئي مدرار. I would say, oh people of Medina, how will you live in Medina now? For Hussein has been killed and the tears flow in my eyes. I wish to take you to a certain point, and from there you will understand why I have mentioned this. Bishr mentions these lines of poetry. Muhammad Hanafiya hears the call that a group has come back from Karbala. He runs to the outskirts of Medina. He says, I saw a man with his hair had turned white. I came towards him, I said, have you come from Karbala? Imam Zainul Abidin says, oh my uncle, yes, we have come from Karbala. Muhammad Hanafiya says, oh man, tell me what happened to Hussein. I would say, oh my uncle, qutila atshana, he was killed thirsty. Hanafiya would say, oh man, and what happened to Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas? Sajjad would say, oh my uncle, they cut his right hand and they cut his left hand. Then Muhammad Hanafiya would say, after Hussein has gone and Abbas has gone, what does he ask about? After Hussein has gone and Abbas has gone, what happened to Zainab and Kulthum? Muhammad Hanafi, Imam would say, oh my uncle, they were made prisoner in Kufa and Sham. Suddenly he looks at Imam Sajjad. He says, oh man, who are you? Why do you call me your uncle? Imam Sajjad would say, did you not recognize Ana Ali ibn al-Husayn? Hanafiya falls on the ground. He says, you are a 24-year-old youth. Now your hairs have become white. What has happened to you? The response would be, Asham, Asham has made my hair turn white. Bishr the poet enters further. Bishr sees a woman. This is where I wish to take you. Bishr sees a woman covered in noor, covered in light. He asked, who is this woman? They said, هذه أم البنين الأربعة. How will I tell her she has lost 4 children in Karbala? Bishr says, I came to her, I said, أعظم الله لك الأجر بولدك جعفر. Condolences for the death of your son Ja'far. Listen to the reply of al-Banin. She says, أخبرني عن ولدي الحسين. Don't tell me about Ja'far, tell me about my son Aba Abdullah. He would say, أعظم الله لك الأجر بولدك عبد الله. Condolences for Abdullah. She would say, no, tell me about Hussein, until he would say, أعظم الله لك الأجر بولدك أبي الفضل العباس. Here then the child in her hand falls on the ground. She says, if Abbas is no longer alive, this means Hussein has been killed. She would enter into the house of Zainab. Zainab would come to the door. Zainab would say, Wa Abbas wa akha. al-Banin would say to Zainab, Wa waladaya wa Husayna. And they say that al-Banin remembers the tragedy that I'm about to recite. For she would sit in Jannatul Baqi and she would make the graves with her fingers, and history says she would mention and remember one thing, for she would say, Oh Abbas, all that I am thinking is when someone falls on the ground, they use their hands to protect them. How did you fall on the ground? For a time would come in Karbala. The sounds of Al-Atash come from the camp. Abu al-Fadl comes to Imam al-Hussein. He says, give me permission to bring back some water, and I promise, oh my master, that I will not fight. Hussein says, I give you permission, but first take permission from your sister Zainab al-Kubra. Abbas says, I went into the tents. I asked Zainab for permission. Zainab says, now that you are going to the battlefield, I know that my hands will be in chains and I will be made a captive. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas puts on his armor. He rushes towards the Furayat. He fights whoever comes in front of him, and no one is able to overpower Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas until he gets to the Euphrates. He places the water in his hands. He says, if Hussein is thirsty, Abu al-Fadl will remain thirsty. He fills the container with water. He begins to return. Certain books of history say the women, they could not see him. The children, they could not see him, but they would look at the standard and the flag of Abu al-Fadl, and they see his flag is coming towards the camp, when suddenly Abu al-Fadl, as he is returning, one of the Mal'oon says, I was hiding behind a tree, and when Abu al-Fadl went past me, I took out my sword. I cut the right hand of Abu al-Fadl. He takes the container in his left. He says, إن قطعتم عن يميني إني أحامي عبدا عن ديني. He takes it in his left. He goes further. Another says, I would strike his left hand. He takes the container in his mouth. The books of history say there are 3 arrows shot in Karbala that break the heart of Abu Abdullah. 3 arrows that break the back of Hussein. The first arrow was the one shot at the chest of Ali al-Akbar. The second was the arrow shot at the neck of Ali al-Asghayr. And the third is this arrow, for the container is in his mouth. Someone shoots an arrow in his eye. It is said that one of the scholars was mentioning this musibah of the eye and the arrow in the haram of Abu al-Fadl. When one of the scholars said, I heard this and I cried and I fell unconscious. I came out of my unconsciousness, I regained consciousness, and I said to the Khatib, never recite this musibah, for it is too difficult for us to bear. The alim says, I went home that night, I went to sleep, I saw Abu al-Fadl in my dream. Abu al-Fadl says, do not stop them from mentioning this musibah, for yes, they shot my eye with an arrow. But do you not know, when someone has something in their eyes, they use their hands to remove it? But I did not have my hands. I would bend down. I tried to remove it with my leg, with my knee. Someone comes from behind, hits him on his head. He falls on the ground. He says, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Hussein says, Al-an inkasara dhahri. Now my back has broken. He rushes towards the maqtal. He picks up the right hand. He picks up the left hand. He sees his brother without any arms. Hussein takes the head of Abbas, places it in his lap. Abu al-Fadl takes his head and places it on the ground. Hussein says, I took his head and placed it on my lap. He would place it on the ground. Hussein says, in your last moments, oh my brother, allow your head to be in my lap. Abu al-Fadl says, but oh my brother, I am thinking, in my last moments, I have a lap for my head to rest on, but in your last moments, you will have no lap. I say, Ya Abu al-Fadl, maybe I say with my hands put together, Ya Abu al-Fadl, maybe Hussein's head will be in the lap of his mother Fatima. Maybe his head will be in the lap of Fatima to Zahra. Abu al-Fadl then looks at Hussein. He says, when I came into this world, I would see you. When I leave this world, I wish to see you. But Ya Hussein, one eye has an arrow, the other is filled with blood, and I would remove the blood myself, but I do not have any hands. Hussein would remove the blood, pick up his body, the body would then fall on the ground. Zainab would be heard crying, Wa Abbasa, Wa Madloom.
على لعنة الله للقوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون يا حسين
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. सब मिलके सारा दो. Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein. Go back a little bit, please. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Can the brothers go back a little bit, please, if you don't mind? Back a little bit, please. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya 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 Hussein. Move back, please, everyone, please, please. And Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Hussein, Ya 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 Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. بابا میں حسین دا کی حال سناواں، بابا میں حسین دا کی حال سناواں، جیو ہے بابا میں حسین دا حسن بابا دسویں نو ویر لاشا چکدا کنج بڑدا سہاوا کی حال بابا میں حسین دا بڑاؤ کا او بابا ویلا سی زین تو لتے اسی جدو غازی بہنا دے کولا کے رویا شبیر بڑا چم چم کے رداوا کی حال سناواں، بابا میں حسین دا کی حال سناواں، بابا میں حسین دا کی حال سناواں، بابا حسن بابا دسویں نو ویر لاشا چکدا کنج بڑدا سہاوا کی حال سناواں، بابا میں حسین دا کی حال سناواں، ہے بابا لاش تے بے کیون پوندا سی ویر میرا اے کہندا جاندا سی، او مینوں بھل دیا نہیں زینب تیر کامل ویلے اصغر دیا داواں، بڑا اوکا او بابا ویلا سی زین تو لتے اسی جدو غازی بہنا دے کولا کے رویا شبیر بڑا چم چم کے رداوا کی حال سناواں، بابا میں حسین دا کی حال سناواں، بابا حسن بابا دسویں نو ویر لاشا چکدا کنج بڑدا سہاوا کی حال سناواں، بابا میں حسین دا کی حال مصرع سن کے ہائے بابا شمر خنجر دیوار کرداسی ویر تسبیح خدا دی پرداسی، او تیرا ضربہ دینا شمر نے گن گن کے او دی کٹھیاں نے ساواں، شمر خنجر دیوار کرداسی ویر تسبیح خدا دی پرداسی، تیرا ضربہ دینا تو تیرا شمر خنجر دیوار کرداسی ویر تسبیح خدا دی پرداسی، تیرا ضربہ دینا شمر نے گن گن کے او دی کٹھیاں نے ساواں کی حال سناواں، بابا میں حسین دا کی حال سناوا ہے بابا پھر پڑھو بابا ہو سن بابا دسویں نو ویر لاشا چکھدا کنج بدا سی ہوا کی حال سناوا بابا ہے بابا جدو زخمی ہوئی دی گردن نہر دے پاس ویکھ کے ویر غازی دا نال کے آخری وین کتاب بچ اکھریاں ساواں کی حال سناوا بابا میں حسین دا کی حال سناوا ہے بابا میں حسین دا کی حال سناوا بابا میں حسین دا ہو سن بابا دسویں نو ویر لاشا چکھدا کنج بدا سی ہوا کی حال سنا ہے بابا ہے بابا میں بھڑاؤ کا او بابا ویلا سی زین تولت یاسی جدو غازی بہنا دے کولا کے رویا شبیر بڑا چم چم کر دعوا کی حال سناوا بھڑاؤ کا او بابا ویلا سی زین تولت یاسی جدو غازی بہنا دے کولا کے رویا شبیر بڑا چم چم کر دعوا کی حال سناوا بابا حسین دا علامہ 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 ہائے اللہ ہائے غصتاؤں کے ہجوم میں غصتاؤں کے ہجوم میں زینب تھی درمیان علامہ 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 حیران ہوں بازار سے کیسے گزر گئی حیران ہوں بازار سے کیسے گزر گئی تطہیر کی پلیتی تطہیر کی پلیتی بازار کا سامان حیران ہوں بازار سے کیسے گزر گئی تطہیر کی پلیتی تطہیر کی پلیتی بازار کا سامان علامہ 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 ہے علامہ علامہ ہے غصتاؤں کے ہجوم میں غصتاؤں کے ہجوم میں زینب تھی درمیان علامہ ہے علامہ علامہ ہے علامہ یہ سوچ کے سجاد کا دل خون رو پڑا یہ سوچ کے سجاد کا دل خون رو پڑا تفسیر بیرداتی تفسیر بیرداتی بازار کا سما علامہ 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 ہے علامہ 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 ہے علامہ 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 ہے علامہ علامہ ہے غصتاؤں کے ہجوم میں غصتاؤں کے ہجوم میں زینب درمیان علامہ 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 Last one. Antara. کیوں بار بار لیتے ہو تم نام بلویام میں کیوں بار بار لیتے ہو تم نام بلویام میں مر جائے گی بازار میں مر جائے گی بازار میں ہائے آج میری ماں علامہ 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 یا حسین 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 تیرا لہو رائے گا نہ جائے گا تیرا لہو رائے گا نہ جائے گا تیرا لہو جائے گا بہن کا وعدہ ہے یہ رنگ ضرور لائے گا ہے دین کی بقا بنا الہ حسین بادشاہ
بارك الله بكم صلوا على محمد وآل محمد Oh, Karbala, why have you taken Abu Abdullah from me? He remains in a city and as you are, Shabab, as you are, Afwan, Habibi, Afwan, as you are, Habibi, Afwan, as you are, relax. Karbala, why have you taken Abu Abdullah from me? He remains in a city and I remain in a city. Why has he left me abandoned? Why has he left me abandoned? Without him life is Jahannam. Without him life is Jahannam. Hussein, 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 Hussein. Sahara Allah, Sahara Allah, Hussein, Hussein. Hussein, Hussein,
Sarallah, sarallah, Allah, Seni Hüseyin, Seni Hüseyin, sarallah, sarallah, Seni Hüseyin, Seni Hüseyin, sarallah, sarallah. Kerbala, why have you taken, Kerbala, why have you taken Abu Abdullah from me? He remains in a city and I remain in a city. Why has he left me abandoned? Why has he left me abandoned? Why has he left me abandoned? Without him life is Jahannam. Without him life is Jahannam. Hussein, 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 Darallah, Darallah, Hussein, 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 Darallah, Darallah, Hussein, 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 Darallah, Darallah, Hussein, 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 Darallah, Darallah. Every land is Karbala, every land is Karbala, every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala, every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala, every land is Karbala, every day is Ashura, every land is Karbala, every day is Ashura, every time we drink the water, we prepare tears for your daughter, every time we drink the water, we prepare tears for your daughter. When she came next to your headless body, your blood was your necklace. Karbala, prolong your last night. Let me say farewell to my Hussein, 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 Darallah, Darallah, Hussein, 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 Darallah. اقطع الكلام، اقطع الكلام حبيبي. حسين 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 ثار الله ثار الله حسين 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 ثار الله ثار الله. Shimmer, don't step on his chest. Shimmer, don't step on his chest. Don't raise his head on a spear. Shimmer, don't step on his chest. Don't raise his head on a spear. Shimmer, don't step on his chest. Don't raise his head on a spear. I cannot see Hussein defeated. Cannot shed any more tears. I cannot see Hussein defeated. Cannot shed any more tears. Karbala, so I'm shedding blood. Karbala, so I'm shedding blood. Taken from country to country. Where is the one to defend me? Where is the one to avenge? Hussein, 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 Darallah, Darallah, Hussein, 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 Darallah, Darallah. From Karbala, Karbala, Karbala. شباب أرجوكم اقطعوا الكلام. بارك الله. Just جوابك only. اقطع الكلام. Don't make this mess, yeah? From Karbala, Karbala, Karbala to Karbala, Karbala, Karbala. I left my heart in Karbala, in Karbala, in Karbala. From Karbala, Karbala, Karbala to Karbala, Karbala, Karbala. I left my heart in Karbala, in Karbala. شوریده و شیدای تو هم، شوریده و شیدای تو هم، شیرینی رویای منی، تا به قیامت پای تو هم دین منی دنیای منی آقای منی آقای منی شوریده و شیدای تو هم شیرینی رویای منی تا به قیامت پای تو هم دین منی دنیای منی آقای منی آقای منی آقای منی وای با شهیدان تو یا حسین وای بر سرخان تو یا حسین وای با شهیدان تو یا حسین وای بر سرخان تو یا حسین وای به دلم حضرت کربلا این کربلا from کربلا 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 to کربلا 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 I left my heart in Karbala, the luminous moon lightening the way, the luminous moon lightening the way, the rising sun that brightens the day. Heaven without you would be in flame. You're the heaven in Karbala, in Karbala, in Karbala. Your visitors offer you the hand, your visitors offer you the hand. Enemies will never understand. How can the water lose to the sand? How can the thirst win in Karbala, in Karbala, in Karbala? For heaven is opening, Ya Hussein. For angels descending, Ya Hussein. Heaven is opening, Ya Hussein. Angels descending, Ya Hussein. They are reciting Karbala. Just your voices in Karbala. From Karbala, Karbala. Insha'Allah to Karbala, Karbala. Where are your hearts? I left my heart in Karbala, in Karbala, the hand of God that nurtures the young, the hand of God that nurtures the young, speaking for Allah, you are the tongue, separating his right from the wrong, elevated in Karbala, in Karbala, the ship that sails swiftly through the waves. Shabab, shوية هادي, barakallah. The ship that sails swiftly through the waves, and whoever boards your ship is safe, immune from the hardships of the grave. Whoever mourns you in Karbala, in Karbala. When will we meet again, Ya Hussein? When under your dome will I grieve again? When will we meet again, Ya Hussein? When under your dome will I grieve again? From Najaf I walked into Karbala, in Karbala, in Karbala. From Karbala, Karbala, Karbala to Karbala, Karbala, Karbala. I left my heart in Karbala, in Karbala.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. Brothers, can everyone just push back a bit? Just push back a bit. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. For the love of Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein, a second salawat. Brothers, tomorrow, in fact today, Shimr is going to be sitting on the chest of Aba Abdullah. Qasim is going to get slaughtered. Ali al-Akbar is slaughtered. Ali al-Asghar, a arrow through his neck. If you're going to do azat today, give justice to these soldiers. Do proper azat this night. We've not got much time. Make our baby Fatima Zahra proud. Repeat after me. Hal yom na'azzi Fatima. It means this day we do azat for Fatima. Simple chorus, everyone can recite. It's very easy. اليوم نعزي فاطمة اليوم نعزي فاطمة اليوم نعزي فاطمة أعلى اليوم نعزي فاطمة شوية جواب اليوم نعزي فاطمة Brothers at the back اليوم نعزي فاطمة اليوم نعزي فاطمة اليوم نعزي فاطمة اليوم إننا للموت عشاق الحسين إننا للموت عشاق الحسين إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت عشاق حيها قد رفرفت أعلامنا باسم طه المصطفى والثقلين وإلى الدنيا بدا عنواننا وإلى الدنيا بدا عنواننا إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت حيها قد رفرفت أعلامنا باسم طه المصطفى والثقلين وإلى الدنيا بدا عنواننا وإلى الدنيا بدا عنواننا إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت نصرنا تكتبه أقلامنا نصرنا تكتبه أقلامنا عزمنا من حيدر والحسنين وإلى الكون صدى أحلامنا وإلى الكون صدى أحلامنا إننا للموت عشاق الحسين إننا حسين إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت شمسهم نورت أفكارنا شمسهم قد نورت أفكارنا حبهم نحمله بالخافقين أقوالهم قد جلجلت أكواننا أقوالهم قد جلجلت أكواننا إننا للموت عشاق الحسين إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت أقلامنا قد طابقت أفعالنا أقوالنا قد طابقت أفعالنا صدقنا من أحمد والفرقدين هكذا قد رسمت أخلاقنا هكذا قد رسمت أخلاقنا إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت أقوالنا قد طابقت أفعالنا أقوالنا قد طابقت أفعالنا صدقنا من أحمد والفرقدين هكذا قد رسمت أخلاقنا هكذا قد رسمت أخلاقنا إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت إننا للموت حسين إننا للموت أقلامنا قد سطرت أحزاننا، أقلامنا قد سطرت أحزاننا، نبكي يا العباس عم الأكبرين، نبكي يا العباس عم الأكبرين، ما جرى تنقله أحفادنا، ما جرى تنقله أحفادنا، إننا للموت، إننا للموت، إننا للموت. Your voices إننا للموت، إننا من نهجكم سترتوي أكبادنا، من نهجكم سترتوي أكبادنا، في طريق الحق نحن سائرين، في طريق الحق نحن سائرين، صوتكم قد دوى في أسماعنا، صوتكم قد دوى في أسماعنا، إننا للموت، إننا للموت، إننا للموت، إننا للموت، حسين إننا للموت، عشاق الحسين إننا للموت. في الفضاء تحملنا أشواقنا، في الفضاء تحملنا أشواقنا، أرض طف كربلاء والحرمين، أرض طف كربلاء والحرمين، منهم سترتوي أقلامنا، منهم سترتوي أقلامنا، إننا للموت، إننا للموت، إننا للموت، عليه إننا للموت، إننا للموت، عشاق إننا للموت. مدرسة قوادها أعلامنا، مدرسة قوادها أعلامنا، كاظم الخيض سليل الصادقين، ومن الشمس زهت أقمارنا، ومن الشمس زهت أقمارنا، إننا للموت، عشاق الحسين إننا للموت، عشاق الحسين إننا للموت. مدرسة قوادها أعلامنا، مدرسة قوادها أعلامنا، كاظم الغيظ سليل الصادقين، ومن الشمس زهت أقمارنا، ومن الشمس زهت أقمارنا، إننا للموت، إننا للموت، إننا للموت، إننا للموت، إننا للموت، إننا للموت، عشاق الحسين إننا للموت. فجروا قبابكم أعداؤنا، فجروا قبابكم أعداؤنا، بدل القبة نبني قبتين، بدل القبة نبني قبتين، لا ولم ستنمحي آثارنا، لا ولم ستنمحي آثارنا، إننا للموت، الحسين إننا للموت، إننا للموت، إننا للموت. يا عباس جيب الماء لسكينا، يا عباس جيب الماء لسكينا، ويا عباس جيب الماء لسكينا، وعطش نارها كل جود وروينا، يا عباس جيب الماء لسكينا، يا عباس جيب الماء لسكينا، نهر ذاك من الموت نجينا، يا عباس جيب الماء، ونهر ذاك من الموت نجينا، يا عباس، وعن ذاك يا ضرغام شاوينا، يا عباس جيب الماء لسكينا، ويا عباس جيب الماء على الراس، يا عباس لنا حسين 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 حسين. قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس، قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس، قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس لا لودا، قل أعوذ برب الناس ملك الناس إله الناس. السلام على الحسين، السلام على العباس، السلام على الحسين، السلام على العباس. لا إله إلا الله، لا إله. Everybody in the mosque, لا إله، لا إله. Louder, لا إله. محمدا رسول الله، عليا ولي الله، عليا ولي الله، عليا ولي الله. نادي علي يا مظهر العجائب، نادي علي يا مظهر العجائب. تجده عونا لك في النوائب. كل هم وغم سينجلي، كل هم وغم سينجلي. Make your دعاء بعظمتك، بعظمتك. Let's make Manchester proud this night. بعظمتك، بنبوتك، بنبوتك، بولايتك. علي 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 علي. حسين 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 حسين.
نبيا عربي ورسولا مدني، بنبيا عربي ورسولا مدني، وأخيه أسد الله مسمى بعلي، وبزهراء بتول، وبأم ولدتها، وبسبطيه وشبليه هما نجل زكي، وبالسجاد وبالباقر والصادق حق، وبموسى وعلي وتقيا ونقي، وبموسى وعلي وتقيا، وبذي العسكر والحجة قائم البحاق، الذي يضرب بالسيف بحكم هزلي، بمحمد وعلي، بمحمد وعلي، بمحمد وعلي، بمحمد وعلي، بمحمد وعلي. محمدا 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 محمدا. يا زهراء يا زهراء يا زهراء يا زهراء يا زينب يا زينب. يا حيدر يا حيدر 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 حيدر. يا حسن يا حسن يا حسن يا حسن يا حسن يا حسن يا عباس يا عباس يا عباس بس يا مهدي يا مهدي يا مهدي يا مهدي أين المنتقم أين المنتقم أين المنتقم أين المنتقم أين الطالب بدم المقتول بكربلاء أين الطالب بدم يا ابن الحيدر يا ابن الزهراء بيا بيا أين الطالب مولا بيا مولا بيا مولا بيا آقا بیا آقا بیا آقا بیا أين الطالب بدم المقتول بكربلاء لا يا حجة ابن الحسن عجل على ظهورك يا حجة ابن الحسن يا حجة ابن الحسن دنیای من آقای من اللهم اجعل محیای من برای تو گریه می کنم تو برای من آقای من سامون بده سامون بده لیلای من یک خبری به مجنون بده من که مردم کرب و بلا تو نشون بده آقای من میگم عاشقم اما خودم بهتر میدونم که نالایقم کدوم عاشقی من که همیشه برای تو آینه دقم کجا عاشقم دوا بده درد بده هر چی دارم ازم بگیر به من یک کربلا بده هر چی دارم ازم بگیر به من یک کربلا بده آقای من السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم السلام على الحسين وعلى
السلام على الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم كن وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل الساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. للأرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
Dear brothers, inshallah we're going to do another majlis in Dar al-Hadi, Ardwick, with Fajr time, men's only. So whoever would like to come, Bismillah, men's only majlis, Fajr time, Dar al-Hadi. Jazakallah.